Hello, everyone. Welcome on our webinar about A/B experimentation for product managers. I want to ask one thing from you. I know there is a delay, so could you please write something in the chat so I would be sure that we have two-way communication? Oh, yes, I see that some people are writing hello to me. Thanks. Hello, everyone. Okay, nice to have you with us today. Yeah, I almost got late to start this webinar because my team was starting an A/B test, and there was, of course, a problem. And yeah, so I'm just jumping off to talk to other fellow PMs about the A/B testing. Let's give everybody a couple more minutes to join if they would like to. And yeah, I would actually ask my dear co-host to launch a quiz or to ask people if they are practicing A/B testing or not in their product development. I just want to know how many of the audience actually tried launching something and know this thrilling feeling when you see that the metrics is growing in the variant or not. So better understand whom I'm talking to. And yeah, another silly question. Can you hear me well, and do you see the slides? Because I am ready to begin. So hope you can you can hear and see me well. Okay, so the quiz is out. Yeah, so I will start my presentation, and you can answer in the meanwhile, and let me know if you are already have some experience with A/B testing or not. Perfect. Let's go. So today I'm going to talk to you about the experimentation, and maybe the special sauce, which I hope I can give you today, is what product managers need to know about A/B testing, because I am consuming a lot of content about experimentation, and it's very often has this problem that they talk about, I don't know, statistical tests or maybe some weird ways to analyze things, which are mostly intended for analysts in my team, but not for myself. And I don't see that much of materials talking about what product managers should do about A/B testing, what they should understand, and what are the main levers which product managers control in the team, which runs a lot of tests. So yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the problem specific for the product management role. A few words about myself. I am Andrew Mende, and currently I work at Booking.com, a company I hope famous for A/B testing. I joined this company 6 years ago because it was known to be a data-driven company, and this is something I definitely wanted in my career, and I was not disappointed. I got to play with data a lot during my career inside the Booking.com and various teams. And I can tell you that this company is indeed data-driven to the deepest parts of its DNA. Yeah, everybody is only talking in the language of data. Everybody knows how to run tests. Yeah, I think there is also A/B tests run on the internal A/B testing tool. So when they launch some changes in the A/B testing tool, it also goes through A/B testing, and they measure some metrics on us, people who do A/B testing there. So this is how deeply data-driven this company is. And lately, I'm also working a lot with ML-powered products. You can think about search relevance or recommendation systems, and those are products which are surprisingly developed by not really working a lot with customer insight. Well, of course, we work with them a lot also, but you have to be really guided by metrics here, because there are a lot of scenarios when you are talking to a customer, to 10 customers, to 30 customers, you hear about some of the problems, but the scale of audience and the diversity of the problems which people try to solve with our product is so big that actually you can only study this general population using the data. And most of the decisions you need to take using metrics, because you solve some of the problems better, you maybe solve some of them worse. To take the weighted decision, you need to understand like how does this impact overall quality of the product. First, I will talk a little bit about the data-driven product development, because this is what A/B testing is about, right? Because you can think of a founder you worked with probably in your career who just had this instinct or idea, I need to build this and this will be good for the customers, this has value. So he was not really data-driven. He had some belief and he wanted to build a product based on this belief. And this is totally fine. This is okay. A lot of products are built like that and they're very successful. But in some cases, we need to exercise this weird way where we don't believe in anything. We don't trust anything. We are only looking at the data and we are only basing our decisions on data. And this is called data-driven product development. And usually this belongs to this area where you have a developed product on a saturated market and you are not looking to revolutionize or disrupt something. You're looking to win another 2-3%, but those 2-3% can actually mean a lot of money on a saturated and mature market. Generally, the data-driven product development is based on this cycle, right? It's called Hadi cycle. Yeah, we make hypotheses. We basically say, okay, maybe it will be better this way. Then we actually try to do something, and then we get data, and from the data we get the insight, right? And actually, I cannot explain to you how important this cycle is, because now I see clearly that not in all parts of life it's actually it actually works. It's actually applicable, because if you will be raising your children based on this, probably it won't do you any good, because you don't have this quick data feedback. And actually, this is the most important part for us data-driven product managers. The data. Can we quickly get the data, the insight? Can we quickly understand how do customers react to the thing which we do? So if you would be developing, I don't know, some sneakers, can you develop them based on data? Well, not really. You cannot launch you cannot do a small tweak, a small change, and then next day or maybe in a few hours get some insights about do the customers like it or not. Most probably they will be dissatisfied, because this is not something they expect from a sneaker to be changing every day. And you won't be getting data quickly and you cannot adapt with the changes. Same goes with food. This is at some point I understood that I cannot be a product manager for something physical, for food. Those product managers, they actually have totally different skill set. So this is where our magic powers, they don't work. We can only work in case we can very, very quickly get the feedback from the data. There are a lot of different types of data, and those are not really of the same value. I created this scale which depicts in some way my view of which data is more valuable and which is less valuable. And by valuable, I mean what predictive power does it have? Like, can we really base our product hypothesis on this? So on the lower end of the scale, you will see ideas and beliefs. I think they have the least probability to be true. It doesn't mean that they are not true. It just means that I wouldn't bet all my money on an idea or a product feature which was based only on my belief or some idea. When you start collecting some partial data, you talk to some people, like a few of them, maybe 2, 3. You're collecting private opinions, anecdotal evidence. This is already better. If you talk to 3 people, most probably your idea will change and you will face the real world, at least in some part. And actually the scale is pretty smooth, so we can collect more and more of the data by involving more people, but we cannot talk to a lot more people, so we have to use different methods. So we have the market analysis, we have polls, we have some cast dev interviews to understand, what people at scale think about the product, or is our idea actually true or not. But of course, the most reliable data, actually maybe the only data we will trust, is the results of interaction of your product with the real market. When you launch, you actually know what your product is worth. And I argue that the most valuable piece of data which you can have is a result of an A/B test. Because even if you launch one version of a product, then it doesn't fly. You don't know if something was different, would it fly or not? But if you run an A/B test and you compare one customer proposition with other, and one performs better, then you can. This is the best data we as a product managers can have. We can be pretty certain that this value proposition actually resonates better. Product strategy based on this reliable piece of data. This is why it's so important to run the A/B tests and do it right, because it's not only the improvement which we gain in the moment, right? Okay, this is better, and so we'll use this customer value proposition going forward. But also based on this, we build our system of beliefs, we build our future hypothesis to understand what will be our strategy going forward. Like, what do we build next? If you're working in an environment which is deeply driven by data, what I like about it is there are no opinions. Like, you don't have to argue with people, you don't have to build the authority or abide to authority. Actually, everybody can prove their words with the data, and if you disagree, you can just talk about, okay, what piece of data can tell who is right or wrong here. And this creates a very nice culture where nobody feels that, oh, I'm in charge, I can take decisions. People become more humble because they actually are proven wrong a lot by data. Everybody, junior product managers, senior managers, everybody is proven wrong from time to time. So people learn to just trust the data. And everything is measured, so we know everything which happens. If you do a lot of A/B tests, at least you have very good statistics, because you cannot do A/B testing in case you don't have the statistics. And maybe more on the downside is that everybody is very much goal-oriented. So maybe this pushes product managers a little bit to be not empathetic. So you actually need to train yourself to still stay empathetic, because, okay, let's say something doesn't improve the conversion, but you see that it improves the life of customers. By indirect metrics, you see that, this is a good change. It does nothing to the conversion. Do we keep it? Do we keep developing it? And here you need to take a human decision. This is why actually we are not completely data-driven. We are more data-informed. You still have to be humane. But on a larger scale, on a strategical scale, most of your teams, you want them to be focused on the metrics which you decided that are important at this moment. Because otherwise, your product will be very nice, but it will be also dead. We all know a lot of products which were really nice to use. Sometimes I was really upset by products, for example, going to the end of life, especially Google is known for this. For closing products which were really nice, but they didn't hit it with the metrics. They didn't grow as fast as expected, and for Google, it was not a really feasible way to invest their resources. Here, I will ask something from you. Can you please write in the chat? So, how do you think, what percentages of the hypothesis which a usual product team makes actually is proven by an A/B test? How frequently are we right? Or how frequently do we get it right when we just create an idea for the backlog? You can look at your backlog of ideas for your product and think, okay, how much of those actually will be beneficial for the metrics they are supposed to improve. I will pause a little bit and wait for your answers. By the way, if you want to ask any question, during this presentation, feel free to. I'm from time to time checking. Okay, so I see that Darrell and yeah, some people answer 10, 15, or even 5, less than 10. Okay. You are almost right. You're almost right, but I'm now going into this onto our main hardcore topic. Yeah, 3% follow your dreams says 3%. Okay, it's not my dream. So one thing we'll be talking about today is, for example, false positive rate, because you know that when we are doing an A/B experiment, there is also a chance, a probability that it will be false positive, right? That it didn't improve the mapping, but we saw this on our radar because, yeah, we know that there might be an error or mistake. By design, it is so. Because there is randomness involved, so it can happen so that, yeah, we will see something green. It will say, okay, I'm significant, but actually it will be not. And we don't know exactly about each and every test. Well, we cannot know about the specific test, how frequently does it happen. But we know on average how frequently does it happen, because this is one of the parameters we set, not with the product managers, more for analysts, but we know that. And usually in commercial organizations, not in scientific institutions, in commercial organization, this parameter is set around 10%. So if your team runs a lot of experiments and your average success rate is around 10%, then I have pretty bad news for you. Because most of this is the expected rate of the false positive. If you are using very basic default settings for your testing, then this would be the false positive. So I would say that normal expected rate should be around 30%. Again, if it's much less than that, then I would be a bit worried, and I would think about how does the hypothesis selection process work in your team. And yeah, also look at about what is the true false positive, what is the actual false positive rate for your team, because there are ways to deal with it. But yeah, just keep this in mind, that this shouldn't be close or lower than your false positive rate set in the experimentation. But people answering around 30% are generally right. This is the average. So you definitely don't want to gamble. If you would be developing everything which comes to your mind, you would be throwing out like 70% of your effort. And yeah, as you go forward, you actually build up. But yeah, if you look at the data, then you should expect 30 to 40% of your ideas to be true. And those are, I need to say this is not just random ideas, because why in teams who do experiments, this is around 30 to 40%, because they have some established facts. Most of the experiments, they run based on previous experiments. And those are facts which are established with scientific precision. Yeah. So this is maybe to set some expectations about how the success rate should look like in your team. If your success rate is around 70 to 80%, then maybe you should think about trying more wild ideas, because you might have much more impact if you are brave enough to try something more revolutionary. Now I want to actually do some practical work together with you to show probably the most important thing which product managers should get right about the A/B testing. And okay, briefly, what is A/B test? A/B test is when we have two versions of the product, and then we randomly select a portion of traffic, usually half of the traffic, in most cases half of the traffic, to show them the new version. And then we compare metrics for both groups. And it is very important that this selection should be completely random, because this is the secret ingredient of the A/B test. It only works if the selection is random. Because this randomness ensures that all other parameters are the same for both groups, because every person coming to our product has equal chances to get in A and B. So all of the parameters will be the same for both groups, except for one thing which we intentionally changed: the product experience. Right here on the right side, we added a banner or maybe some feature. You can measure actually anything with this any change in product experience, as long as you keep the distribution random. I won't go deep into statistics because I promise that this will be a webinar for product managers. Yeah, but imagine that you are running an AA test. So instead of two different variants, you have absolutely identical variants, but you still divide people in two equal groups, and you measure some metrics for both groups. Do you think the metrics will be the same for two groups, or they will be different? I'll give you a second to think. Yeah, please, answer. Think a little bit, because it's one of the key. This practical thinking actually helps you understand what's happening. So give answer to yourself, or preferably type it in the chat. Will the metric be same for two groups if the division is random, but the experience is exactly the same, exactly identical? Yes, exactly. It could be. It will be different. So the essence of A/B experimentation, of the statistical test behind the A/B test, is basically measuring the probability that the difference which we observe actually corresponds to an improvement in products, or actual change in the metric, or it can be just random, or it could be explained by randomness. So this is the essence of the test. And because there is no way to be sure, we need to establish some thresholds, and there will be an error rate. Actually we can have false positive, so we can say, okay, actually I think this change improves my metric, but in fact it won't be improving, or it can be the other way around. So you say, okay, I don't see improvement in metric, but actually there was an improvement, you just didn't see this. I won't go deep into the statistic because I don't think it's important for product managers, but I think what is very important for product managers is to understand this, I call it triangle of power. If, like me, you were a project manager some time ago, like early in your career, then there was this triangle of project management, that you have the project scope, you have the resources, and you have the duration. And it's clear that you cannot change only one component without changing the other. So we can do the same amount of work, but faster, without changing, for example, how much resources do we dedicate to this. This is pretty intuitive, and everybody understands that. But there is a relation which is as much important about A/B testing, which not everybody understands. And if there is one thing which you will take from this webinar, I think this is the most valuable part. For the A/B test, there are two parameters which we practically control as product managers. One is detectable impact, like what is the size of the difference which we can measure with this A/B test. I mean, like, if you are talking about conversion rate, let's say, then this is percentage. Okay, can I detect 1% of change? So currently my conversion rate is, let's say, 3%. Will I detect if it becomes 3.5? Will I get a statistical significant result or not? We decide how much of the difference are we chasing. And if we say, okay, let's say 0.5% in this case is the impact which we are going for, then you agree that, okay, if the impact will be 0.4%, then the experiment won't detect it. Even if it's there, the experiment say, I don't see any difference because it's below the minimum detectable impact. And other important parameter is the sample size, the amount of observations which we have in the experiment. And those two are directly correlated. There is the third part of the triangle, the confidence level and power. But this part, I usually we don't change. This is something we agree on with the team, with the stakeholders, with analysts. If you are not really into statistics, then this is something which will be basically prescribed to you. Don't worry about it. You will get those settings from somebody, and you don't need to do it. If you are a very experienced product manager with a lot of knowledge in statistics, you can actually maybe negotiate and say, okay, we are working with marketing, we have those parameters, maybe we should change the confidence level for those cases. But this is something you don't decide for every test. This is something you agree on for a product domain or experimentation line, and then you have it set. So two things which you practically control is the sample size and the impact which you can detect. I don't want to just talk to you because you cannot really understand things if you just talk about them. I really believe in practical things, so let's just look at how this works in practice. And I'm going together with you to play with two tools, which I think will put this in practice for you and help you understand how this relationship works. So I have here open an A/B testing calculator. This is an open tool. We can share a link to it in the chat, so you can actually play with it yourself. Why this one, by the way, is I think open sourced by Booking. It's very much like the one which I use at work, but maybe it's a little bit of an older version, but still, I think this is we're pretty advanced in A/B testing. And I think that our power calculator is really nice in this sense. So let's look how it works. So what I need to set up when I am using an A/B test calculator, I am setting up my base rate, conversion rate. Let's use 5% for this example, because usually in e-commerce, you will have conversion rates around 1 to 5%, depending on what exactly are you measuring, but something this order of magnitude. And then you have to set up your daily visitors. And let's say we are still in the early phase, or where we cannot afford a lot of traffic. So let's put here something like 10,000 of customers per day. And now you actually can calculate. You can see how many days do you need to detect a certain impact. And you can play with this thing and you could say, okay, what if I want to measure the improvement by 1%? This is relative. So the absolute improvement will be 0.05. You will need more than a year. Okay, let's go a bit more wild. Let's say we want to we're going with our change. We're going to improve the conversion rate by 50%. Okay, this can be detected in obviously less than 1 day. So you already see the relationship. This is something I think every product manager should be working with when you look at your backlog and you look at the features which you are going to prioritize. This is something I practically use. So if somebody comes up with a suggestion, I can say, okay, how much people will actually be affected? What is the reach of this feature? Is it for all the customers, maybe only for part of audience, only maybe for logged-in customers, maybe for customers with certain status on our platform? Okay, I know what is the size of the traffic, and I can put it here. And then I can basically work, I can say, okay, what is the improvement which I expect from this? And I can go wild and say, okay, let's say we expect 20% of improvement. This is definitely something we should try, because in 2 days, we will get reliable results if this works or not. Actually, down here, let's put something more reasonable, because improving conversion by 20% doesn't happen very often. Let's be a little bit more modest. Let's put something like, okay, 5 days. Here you have a small graph, which actually helps a lot. It actually helps you set the expectations, because you can here see for different days what is the improvement rate for which you should be going. And what is also nice about this particular calculator, that it shows you improvement in the amounts per day. Yeah, you see that it's numbers. So you can basically we are going to get 20 more conversions per day, and we can measure this in 28 days. In 23 days, we can measure 22 additional conversions per day. I think you can also get this in percentage, right? So not I want to see. I want to see. It doesn't allow showing the percent per number of days. But yeah, okay, you can work with incremental numbers. Incremental numbers are actually even better because it's something very tangible. So if I'm improving by 30 conversions or purchases per day, I will see this in 12 days. If I am improving by just 20 purchases per day, I will see this in 20 days. But this is clear how those two things relate. So when you are evaluating a change, you can just use this power calculation. You can evaluate if it actually makes sense or not, because if we would say, okay, I don't expect more than 2% increase from I just don't believe it. Or let's say the traffic for this feature will be particularly low. So maybe even 5%, but just 1,000. You will immediately see that, yeah, it's not possible to detect. It will take too long. It doesn't make sense. You won't be running an experiment for 200 days. So you will immediately drop this hypothesis and you will realize that, okay, I need to work with a better hypothesis, because most of the tests actually fail not because of some technical reason or maybe statistical calculations, but they fail because the hypothesis is chosen wrong. We as product managers cause much more trouble than developers or any other role in the team by picking hypotheses which cannot bring reliable or feasible improvement. We can actually fail the whole thing from the beginning. Even before you start, you know that it's doomed to fail. One thing I wanted to show you, this is more from the practical perspective. Let's go back to 10,000 of daily visitors, and let's put a reasonable 5% improvement. So yeah, everything looks nice. Actually, yeah, 20 days is a reasonable time for which we can run an experiment. Probably your team produces something like maybe a feature or two per sprint. So testing them for 2 weeks is also good. A lot of people ask, okay, how do I set this magic number? How do I know how much my feature will improve the conversion? And the answer is you cannot. Even if you are product managers with 15 years of experience, you cannot. If you could, you you would be rich as hell. You would be trading Bitcoin, not doing product development. There is no way to estimate reliably what will be the improvement from a certain change in the product. So why I really like this calculator is it actually allows you to also work backwards, which I think experienced product managers do a lot. Because I can say that, yeah, I know that I'm not willing to run this experiment for more than 3 weeks. And I put in the base conversion rate, which I know. I put in the traffic, which I know. And I'm just playing with the expectation. I'm saying, yeah, I'm not willing to run this for more than 21 days. And then I get the improvement in absolute values and in relative, which I can be detecting in this amount of time. And then I can say, okay, yes, this makes sense. I believe that this change can actually drive this improvement of plus 5% relative. Yes, I believe this. So I will take this hypothesis. I think this working backwards makes a lot more sense than actually sitting there and trying to guess, okay, by how much the conversion will improve from my new feature, by 10%. I don't know why. Yeah, you can actually just calculate this threshold, and then you are doing the reverse. You are looking at your hypothesis, and you're thinking, okay, is it reasonable that this will improve conversion by 5%? Yes, then we take it. If you don't really believe this, then look for a stronger hypothesis. Play with things which are more important to the customer. Look for a stronger improvement, more risky improvement, which you believe will bring the amount which you can actually detect in this reasonable time. I think there is like, it's a very good self-regulated system, because if your product is relatively young, and at the moment you have very little traffic, right? You have to go with super risky hypothesis, because what can I measure in the early stage of the product faster? I need the conversion rate to jump by 20%. I need to take really risky hypothesis, and it makes sense. You're a small product, you still don't have a product market fit, probably. You have to try risky things. You should not be looking at big companies and saying, okay, I'm going to play with the font size, or I'm going to, I don't know, change the colors or the picture. No, this doesn't fit your current stage of development. Do you believe that changing the picture will change the conversion by 20%? Most probably not. Repositioning yourself to a different segment, or repositioning yourself to a different audience, or changing your value proposition can actually increase it by 50, by 100%. So this drives a lot of sense in your product decisions. You know what are the kinds of improvements which you should be chasing at this stage of product development. Okay, I will pause for a second, because I hope I could explain to you how this relationship works and how you can use it in practice as a product manager. I will pause for a second and collect any questions in the chat. If there are any, please type them now. And I wanted to maybe talk a little bit more about how you can learn further about the A/B testing. Okay, Sardar asks, how do you normalize the data? Sardar, I don't understand really what do you mean by normalizing in this case. Because for A/B testing, you don't have to normalize it. You just rely on the random distribution. In most cases, you don't need to do anything else. How many days of experiment do you usually go for? This depends on the team, but the default setting, so let's say the industry convention is that you should be going in full weeks, because most businesses have weekly cycles. So usually people go in full weeks, because if you just run for the weekend, then actually the conclusion, even if you have enough traffic, it may be not really representative for all the week. So usually, and if you think about it, it makes sense. So usually people go in full weeks. And in most cases, I would say that A/B tests run 1 to 4 weeks. This is, the average. Sometimes you really need this small change to detect, and then you run for a longer time. Let's say you're playing not with your customers, but with your suppliers, and you don't have that much suppliers, and you have to run for longer. But those are exceptional cases. So I would say the benchmark is 1 to 4 weeks. Default is 2 weeks, maybe 1 week. Can you run a test on the metric in absolute terms? No, but I think it's still useful to keep in mind always what is the absolute amounts which you are thinking about. This really helps you understand what impact are you making for the business, because you can recalculate it in money per day. This is very useful to set your perception of what is a good improvement and what is not. You can compare this with the salary of the development team, which usually works. By the way, one more consideration about how to set the length of the test. I'm also comparing it to the cycle of developing a feature, right? Usually a team produces like a couple of features per sprint, maybe 3 features per sprint. So I want for another sprint to get results on those, to keep them going, to keep feeding them back the results of that. So this is why probably 1 or 2 weeks, because you want the A/B test to be not much longer than a development sprint where you actually produce something. The number of the sample size is for the whole A/B test, or is it for one branch? In this case, in this calculator, this is for the whole thing. So it's very easy. You just measure like with Google Analytics, how much do you get on average in your product currently, and this will be the number. Okay, yeah, Mirror asks, could you please advise on additional materials book to read to get familiar with A/B testing? And this gives me a perfect opportunity to also talk about the, yeah, I wouldn't call it a course. I think we'll share a link right now. So I think of it more like a set of exercises, because you see, we just played with something, right? We entered some numbers, we got some results, we took some decisions, discussed about them. I think this is the only way to learn about A/B testing, because listening to somebody talking like you're listening to me right now won't do you any good. You need to touch those things. You need to calculate it, put it inside, evaluate your hypothesis, take the decision, get the feedback. And this is exactly what this yeah, course or a set of exercises is about. You will see there a lot of practical examples of how things can go and which decision as you can take. Because I talked to you about the most important principle about the power of the test and about the relationship between the impact and the sample size. But there's actually a lot of more things, because we don't just take the decision based on one metrics. Actually, we are looking at a lot of metrics, and there are a lot of things to know about the implementation. And those are things which you need to learn in practice. So this is like a set of exercises which I developed together with Konstantin, my partner in crime for this. He is actually a product owner for data platform, so he's in charge of the tools for running A/B tests in the flow. And I think it's a women wellness company. And together we developed those set of exercises which you can follow, and then you will in practice learn a lot about how A/B testing actually works and which decision you as product managers need to test. And you will practice those decisions. You will say, okay, let's put this flow on, and then we will give you some feedback and say, okay, actually you shouldn't be putting this flow on because you didn't look at this and take in consideration this. Or, okay, congratulations, this was a great decision. You took into account everything which needs to be considered in this case. So yeah, I can really advise you to follow this set of exercises to learn more about the A/B testing. If you like the way we discussed it today, if you learned something from me playing with the Power Calculator, then yeah, probably you work best through practice and through examples. And so you will get much more of this when you pass. I think it's 5 or 6 chapters in this, yeah, let's say, practical story about A/B testing, and you will learn all the stages of it: power calculation, taking the decisions, choosing the metrics, and even the advanced techniques which are currently used, like adjusting the metrics for covariates or using sequential testing. And those are things which are right now popular in the industry. I can explain them really quickly, but through a series of exercises, I can actually give you an idea of what this is about. Okay, let me take maybe a couple more questions, and then we will probably yeah, look at another example of power calculation just to generalize our knowledge, and yeah, maybe bust a couple of myths about A/B testing. How do you pick what to test, as you can't take all ideas to this stage? Yeah, well, I would say that doing the power calculation doesn't really change the way you do prioritization, because you still have the impact and effort, right? You estimate those, but it can actually cut off some of things, because sometimes when I do the prioritization, when I work with the backlog, I definitely have the power calculator open, because I think, okay, if we implement this, what is the test which I'm going to run to test this? And yeah, I can quickly say, okay, this doesn't make sense. Or this is much riskier than another hypothesis, which can be tested. So yeah, this automatically will drive you to, for example, work with a higher reach or stronger hypothesis, where you believe that the change can be in absolute values much higher. How often do you conduct the A/B tests in mobile app? How many small features do go into mobile release? Actually, with mobiles, I think we have a separate chapter on that because Flow is primarily a mobile app. So my colleague has a lot of experience with this. In mobile apps, you cannot actually reliably do A/B testing if you just rely on the native development, because you're right, the releases, come not very often. It is very hard. You have to go through review if something goes wrong. So yeah, it's not practically possible. So a lot of companies developed this technique of actually releasing a lot of potential changes and then having the configuration sent on the fly through the network. So basically, let's say you load a lot of variants on the app, but then you control them through configuration. So after the release, you can do a lot and you can actually send some dynamic parts of it. And this allows you to launch a lot of A/B tests and not be bound by those releases of mobile app, which happen not very often. So I really advise you to look, maybe to follow our course and to see which techniques do we suggest for that, but then also follow the industry best practices because this problem is more or less solved even for the native mobile apps. And the last question I'm taking, have you experienced a case where a test has proven to improve the experience of a certain user group, but made the experience of another group worse? Yes, definitely. This is a big pain, especially when you have a lot of analytics and you track a lot of things for every change. Then this happens actually a lot. So the worst case is cannibalization. If we go back to an example which I had like here, let's say we introduced another banner into the page and people are clicking on this banner and maybe even buying through it or something like that. This is nice, right? But we don't need A/B test to measure this because if there was no banners before, then every click on this banner is actually a new click and incremental. So what we are actually measuring is how much people interact in general with the page, right? Because all the clicks which went into this banner, they are actually stolen from other components. And it is totally not given that, it's for good. Maybe people click a lot on this banner because it's prominent, it's bright, it's high up there, but actually drives people to the experience, which doesn't drive to conversion. And by stealing clicks from other components, you actually decrease the overall conversion. But if you, for example, just look at the clicks, then you will see a very bright picture. So in a lot of cases, you will see that you're improving one metric, you're improving somewhere, but then somewhere else you will be decreasing. And I think it's one of the most important qualities of a product manager for a team which does the experiments to be able to pick this weighted metric, which looks at the overall picture and gives you the net result of your change. Is it overall beneficial for your product or not? You have to be able to see this root metric, which gives you the end result. Do you sometimes divide the group into more than two groups? Okay, actually, this is a perfect example for us to look at another power calculator and then discuss. No, actually, I think, this doesn't have the capability to measure more than one variant. So I will show you the answer to this question about more than one groups through the booking, because it has actually the capability here. Up here, you will see that there is base plus one variant. So what happens if we add more variants? You will see that the impact drops. The requirement for impact for 14 days increases dramatically, right? So if you think, oh, I have two ideas, let's try them both, but then the requirement rises immediately, a lot. So there is no free breakfast, there is no magic. If you are adding variants, you are stealing the power. You're agreeing that the impact must be much higher than for one variant, because basically the power calculation works through the number of observations. So it requires a certain number of people per variant. So when you're cruising number of variants, you're not, it's almost the same as run two A/B tests sequentially. Sometimes it's a bit better, sometimes not, but generally there is no free breakfast. If you are testing two hypotheses, then you need much more observation. So it will be either slower or you will actually detect only much higher impact. Again, this triangle, you need to agree to do something, to either wait for more time or buy more traffic, or you need to agree that the impact which you can detect will be actually lower. So sorry, there is no free lunch. Let's look at another power calculator just to illustrate, and we can do the same example. For example, a 5% base conversion and 14 days. Why I like this one? Because it actually it spells you everything out with words for you, so it can be used by even very inexperienced people, and yeah, it will be still very understandable because they just spell it literally out with words. So I think here we took 1,000. Okay, so here we have daily traffic. I think here per week. So per week this would be 7,000. And let's say the same. We want to run the A/B test for 2 weeks. You see, they also allow this backward calculation, which I think is really reasonable. And we will arrive to the same conclusion that we need improvement at least of 19% relative to detect this with the current traffic, with the current base conversion for 2 weeks. And yeah, you can see that it spells this out in words. So you in the variant you would minimum need 6% conversion compared to 5 and base to be for this change to be detected in 2 weeks. It's very easy to understand, gives you exactly the same result. And yeah, actually there's another field, so don't confuse it. You can say, okay, I want to detect 10% improvement. And it will tell you, okay, it will require you 7.03, and it strictly rounds it up to whole weeks. If we say, okay, we want 20%, then it will round to 20 weeks. So yeah, you can see that there is a relationship. You can play with it. You can understand where you are on this graph. But I also think that the fact that this booking calculator has this graph makes it much more visual. You understand that, okay, you have a trade-off here. You can detect smaller impact, but it will require more days. And yeah, I wanted to do a small recap with you and then bust 2 popular myths about A/B testing. So if you take one thing from today, it is the fact that we have the impact which we are chasing and the sample size, and there's no free lunch. If you change one, you will have to change the other. So if you want to detect a small impact, then you will need a big sample size. If you reduce the sample size, so let's say you reduce the duration, you also agree that you won't be detecting small impacts. They will just go unnoticed. Myth number 1 is, which I hope you will now understand why it is wrong. It says that, oh, if I'm really afraid, if I'm afraid to harm the customers, if I'm afraid to roll out this change, actually I should be rolling out for 10% of the traffic my new feature or new change. And the rest should be still getting the base, right? Because yeah, we don't want to harm a lot of customers, so we will just expose a little bit of the customers to the change. Well, actually, this is completely wrong, because if you remember how the power calculation works, it is not linked to the duration. It is linked to the number of observations which we have in each variant, right? So to detect a certain impact, you need a certain number of observations. And it doesn't depend, do you collect those observations for 1 hour or 1 day? Let's imagine that your change actually creates a harm to the conversion and drops the conversion by 20%. To detect this harm of 20% with statistical significance, you need 1,000 observations. And it doesn't matter if you collect those in 5 minutes or in 1 hour. So when you are doing this 10 versus 90% split, the only thing you are doing to yourself, you're making it longer to detect this thing. You will learn this later, but you will harm the same amount of customers if you would run this for 50-50. The only case when you should run this uneven split, if you believe that there is a harm or there is negative impact, which is only detectable after some time. Then yes, of course, you should limit the impact because you just don't see it immediately. Let's say it's delayed. Let's say customers only will be impacted when they, let's say, receive the delivery or something like that, there's a long temporal delay in observation of the metric, then it makes sense. Then, okay, try this on 10% of your deliveries and then see the impact later. And yeah, you might see that it's impacted. But for all real-time metrics, for all clicks, for all conversions, you should never do this 10 versus 90, because actually there is a high chance that the team will get distracted. When you launch the experiment, usually you track it, you watch it. And you most probably, if you know immediately that something is wrong, you will see it because your focus is still with this experiment. If you do this uneven split, you will actually detect the negative impact only later somewhere, let's say in 24 hours. But at this time, you're distracted, you moved on to other tasks, and there is high chance you won't be even looking at it for another 3 days if you're running a lot of experiments. So yeah, this is completely not correct. This doesn't make any sense. So you shouldn't be running uneven splits in case your changes are immediately impacting the customers. You should be starting 50-50 and be ready to emergency stop in case there is a strong impact which is detected by the metrics immediately. Second myth, which is also, I face it a lot of people think that if you run several experiments together, then you actually need a separate strip or arm of traffic for every experiment. So let's say if you run 2 A/B tests, then you first have to split all your audience in 2 parts, and then in every part you will split it again for 2 A/B tests. Yeah, this is not true. Actually, there is an article from Microsoft Research Center, which I like to link to. It is a pretty recent one, went out in August of this. It has a very clickbaity title, A Call to Relax. And it basically says that, yeah, sometimes it happens that 2 A/B tests impact each other and they interact somehow and they have some negative consequence of the interaction. But this happens so rarely that basically the win of running a lot of A/B tests at full traffic is so much more important that you shouldn't be concerned with it. And the day-to-day practice of all the big companies actually confirms this. If you will come to Google, if you will come to Booking, to Amazon, they will be running a lot of experiments on top of each other, and the product managers won't even talk to each other and coordinate those. Because we trust in our random splits of the traffic, we just trust that everything will run smoothly. And yeah, this increases our speed a lot. So maybe I shouldn't be busting this myth because yeah, the moment the companies realize that they can run a lot of A/B tests at full traffic, at full power, they will be detecting much more improvements per any period of time. Yeah, well, now that you know how the power calculation works, you actually understand that, okay, imagine you have only 1/3 of the traffic or half. You see how much slower you become. If you can experiment with all the hypotheses at the same time on the full traffic, you are much, much faster. So just don't, yeah, the textbook example is that one team colors the button red and the second team colors the text in the button red. Yeah, this probably won't work. This will create negative impact, but this doesn't happen this often. Usually those changes are orthogonal. So this myth is also completely not true. This is busted. Don't be afraid and just run a lot of experiments on top of each other. Most probably they will all be okay and give you reliable results. Okay, this is everything I wanted to talk to you about. I think those are the most important thing which product manager needs to know about the A/B testing. If you still have questions, I will hang around here for another 5 minutes and we'll be glad to take and answer those. And yeah, I will once again maybe talk a little bit that me and my partner in crime, we prepared a set of exercises, a practical, we call it a simulator, because basically when you start playing with it, you actually need to do some things. It's a bit of a simulator, like the simulator game, right? You play a product manager in a team which does experiments. You need to take decisions, you need to calculate things and then check your calculations with your colleagues. So this is how you learn. Most people learn much better by practice than by just listening. Because yeah, if you just listen to me right now, well, you know some things, but when it comes to doing your first experiment, most probably you will be a little bit stumbled. If you actually did calculation for 2-3 cases, then you will be much more confident about how to use the power calculation and how to do this stuff. Okay. Oh, one question which I missed from Anastasia is what I mean. I have a metric which isn't measured in percentage, say a number of orders and not conversion rate. I am looking to improve the number of orders by 30%. What should be the base rate? Well, it is totally possible. What you are talking about is non-binary metric, because usually we as product managers work with binary metrics like conversion. It can be either 1 or 0 for every observation. It is easy. And in most cases, we work with it because from statistical standpoint, it's much more convenient, because those simple calculators can immediately give you a sense of, yeah, it's easy. The only thing you need to know about a binary metric is the percentage, because it doesn't, well, it has a fixed variance. So it's very easy to work with. I prefer to work with binary metrics as much as I can. But what you're thinking about is non-binary metric, because for every customer, the number of orders can be like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a continuous metric. It's like an average purchase. It can have any numeric value. And it's a bit more tricky. So to actually work with this metric, you cannot just take one value like average number of purchases or average amount of purchase. You also need to know the variance. And this is why those simple calculators, they won't allow you to do this calculation. You actually need to load the whole data set to calculate the distribution, and then you can do this calculation. So specific tools, they allow you to work with those things. So this is possible, but you need a specific tool. And yeah, if you can, switch to using conversion, because yeah, then things become a bit more easy for you. Can you share with us how many A/B tests results in Booking are usually reusing for mobile app, or a mobile team has to conduct their own A/B tests always? To be honest, I don't, I cannot speak for everybody, because we have a lot of teams and they have their own standards and habits. What I can say, usually we measure all the things, all the changes. This is the standard practice in Booking. So we won't just say, okay, this worked here, so we will just mechanically put it here. No, we have enough infrastructure and we usually measure everything. So we will, if something works somewhere, then we'll probably try it on other places and also measure what is the impact. So those might be two separate experiments. And this is exactly why the success rate of your team can go up, because something worked somewhere, then you can actually build on top of that. You know that this works, this is important for your customers. This is a fact which you established. So then most probably based on this, you can create much more reliable, much more the probabilities with higher chances, the hypothesis with higher chances of success. But you would need to still run them on the mobile apps. Hope this answers your question, Sergey. In the calculator, it has an option of continuous metric. I'm not sure about this one. Yes. Okay, so maybe following up on my answer to Anastasia, yeah, if you can calculate the standard deviation for your number of purchases, let's say you have 10 purchases on average, but then you also need to enter the standard deviation, and then you can actually still use this calculator. But this thing you need to calculate based on your data. Okay, I hope you learned something useful today. And I will be glad to see you among the people who go through the set of exercises, which I was talking about. Then, yeah, I think we will also maybe talk again. So thanks so much. And yeah, keep following us on YouTube and LinkedIn. I hope the link will appear here to follow us on LinkedIn, because we will be sharing things like this. I like to share things which are relevant for product managers, because there are some topics where you have a lot of materials for domain experts, like for example about ML or about A/B testing. You have a lot of materials for machine learning scientists or data scientists or maybe data analysts, but not a lot about what the PMs should do. So I think it's very important to talk about what we as the PMs contribute to those topics and what are the levers and what are the typical decisions which we need to take, because I think this is a totally different thing. So thanks everybody for joining, and yeah, hope to see you again. Let me maybe keep this running for a couple more minutes, and yeah, let's share the link for LinkedIn, and you can follow me personally, and you can also follow the team who is driving the creation of the simulator, which is ProductDo.